I need you to pay attention. The reason why Vladimir Putin pretty much did an invasion on Ukraine, because they was talking about possibly having nukes in the country. Listen.
Now, the president also went on to say that the United States will not send troops to Ukraine.
Although we provided over $650 million in defensive assistance to Ukraine just this last year, let me say it again. Our forces are not and will not be engaged in the conflict with Russia in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies and reassure those allies in the East. As I made crystal clear, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory with the full force of American power.
It is a move that has stunned nations around the globe. But according to Russian President Vladimir Putin, his country had little choice but to act.
Most importantly, it is to make things clear. Everything that is happening is a forced measure. We were left with no chances to do it differently. Safety risks were such that it was impossible to respond with different measures. All attempts led to nothing. Nothing. Frankly speaking, I'm very surprised that we didn't improve an inch in any matter.
In recent weeks, the U.S. and some of its NATO allies openly sent weapons to Ukraine while training that country's forces. This is in addition to years of such actions, even though Ukraine is not a NATO member. And last month, during talks in Geneva between the U.S. and Russia, Washington made it clear that it was not willing to put a halt to NATO's eastward expansion along Russia's borders, saying that NATO's open-door policy for new members has always been fundamental to the alliance. NATO has echoed that statement, with Ukraine at the center of the issue. While the West kept mentioning diplomacy, evidently it was not prepared to take Russia's security concerns into consideration. That has led to this. And while Russia is on the offensive, it says it is doing everything it can to avoid unnecessary casualties.
Neb, I want to start with you. The Kremlin's rhetoric has been no war, and I think we can kind of all say none of us really saw this much of it coming. Neb, why now?
I think at this point, the red line that President Putin quoted in his speech in the early hours that caught a lot of people off guard was President Zelensky's reference during the Munich Security Conference of willingness of Ukraine to acquire nuclear weapons. Of Ukraine to acquire nuclear weapons. Of Ukraine to acquire nuclear weapons. He literally named that as the red line, that this is even tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine's possession would be a strategic threat to Russia, is what he said.